Greetings, ghouls and creeps, and welcome to Listen to Their Screams, a horror podcast, and happy Halloween. This is our bonus episode for Halloween. I am your host, Dave, and I'm joined by the other host, Ike. Ike, happy Halloween.
Yes, indeed. Today is the day that you put out a pumpkin for the Great Pumpkin.
Yeah. I always wonder if, we'll talk more about that when we get to Great Pumpkin, but I always wonder, does anybody ever really roll the pumpkin like Linus did in that show, and how's that work? That's pretty wild. But I have questions about the Peanuts universe anyway, but we'll talk more about that when we get to that part of the show. So this is our special Halloween bonus episode. We feel like, being a horror podcast and spooky enthusiasts, that we had to do something special for the Halloween holiday. So what we have done is we watch horror movies. We talk about horror movies every episode. We decided on this, since it's the holiday, to shift a little bit and talk about Halloween specials, whether that be special television broadcasts or movies specifically for the holiday, or a specific Halloween episode of a television show. And what happened is Ike and I each picked three. These aren't necessarily, we're not going to say they're necessarily our favorites or what we think are the best or anything like that. They're just three that we like, and three that we feel are pretty representative of us. And the cool thing is, with such a generational gap, it's going to be some fun talks because I mean, we'll just get to it. So before we dive in, just real quick, we're just going to go just a little bit of the normal housekeeping. Make sure wherever you're listening that you do subscribe and then share the episodes. Help us network in social media. Speaking of social media, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. That is Listen to Screams. That is Listen, the number 2, and Screams. As always, special thanks to Monica, our podcast researcher. She gave us all the information about seasons and episodes, original air dates, all that good stuff, so that we can be informed of these things that we're discussing today. And the vast majority of these specials we're doing are 20 to 30 years old, if not more, but we will be courteous and say, spoiler warning. If you have not seen a 40-year-old television episode that airs every year, then we might spoil it for you in the discussion. I'm not even going to care today if we talk about details, because I would venture to guess that most of our listeners have seen most of these, or they just don't care to see them. One or the other. So, but there is a spoiler warning. So let's get to it. Like I said, we've got a total of 6 specials here. Each of us picked 3. We're going to alternate. Give one of each and discuss them. Ike, we're going to go, let you go first. And what is your first special that you picked?
Yes, indeed. So for my first pick, and obviously this is in no particular order of favorites, like Dave said, these are just
Correct.
things that are representative of, honestly, like, for me, this was like childhood. So this first one, oh man, I still watch it. I still watch the show. It's one of those shows I can put on the background. But we have SpongeBob SquarePants. You heard that right. He lives in a pineapple under the sea, and he has his own Halloween specials. For this one, I specifically chose the episode, which is season 2, episode 6, The Graveyard Shift. There are other Halloween episodes of SpongeBob, I will say. Actually, me and my spouse talked about this. There is another one that is from season 1 that's pretty iconic too. But this is probably the one that I think is the most iconic. If you're curious, this originally aired on September 6, 2002, 10 days before my 7th birthday. And then it's also available on Dailymotion, YouTube, and Paramount Plus for streaming. I got to be honest, love SpongeBob, love this episode. I want to rewatch it, very nostalgic. But I feel like it pretty much represented like that early childhood, because, oh man, I love SpongeBob. But I'm very curious. What did you think about the Graveyard Shift?
Well, here's my thing. I like SpongeBob too, because I'm a cartoon nut. I love cartoons, and I don't care about the era of cartoons, as long as it has that feel and that vibe of animation and cartoon. I'm not saying style wise or anything per se. I'm just saying that feeling, right? Because cartoons like this, like a SpongeBob type cartoon, it should be fun, right? It should make you chuckle and giggle and think, fuck, this is kind of silly. But that's what a cartoon should be.
Right.
I will say I watched this, and I am 99% sure that I've seen this one before. I've watched SpongeBob
I'm sure you have.
on and off. Never seen like stretches, but I'm pretty sure, because I remembered this story, and it was great. It was kind of your your classic ghost tales type story, right? Where, of course, Mr. Krabs wants to make a little extra money, so he's going to keep the Krusty Krab open for the night shift or the graveyard shift, thus the title. But there's a little more meaning, right? Because Squidward's, of course, not happy he's there, and he tells the ghost story about what do they call it? The hash slinging.
The hash slinging, the hash slinging, the hash slinging slasher. Yeah.
Yeah, slasher. That's what it is. Yeah, and but he tells this ghost story, and of course, you think it's coming true, and it ends up, not being true. It's kind of your typical comedic ghost story, Halloween type thing. But and it does, it has all your greatest hits, highlight moment type things from SpongeBob. That SpongeBob having this, is a panic attack type thing, and Squidward being aggravated with him, and Mr. Krabs being being gluttonous or greedy, and all that stuff. And but I fully enjoyed it. And what was the cherry on top for me that I forgot? I didn't realize I forgot at this point totally. Was right at the end, the little cameo by Nosferatu.
Nosferatu.
And that was the best because the lights going on and off, and it was him flipping the light switch. I love that. I didn't. I mean, I'm sure I've seen it, but totally forgot that was part of it. And anytime you throw a classic monster into something, it warms my heart. So I very much enjoyed it. And like a lot of animation, especially older animation, it's a show is whatever, it's a half hour, but it's usually 2 segments. So this was only half. So this was only like 12, 13 minutes long. So it was a quick, easy, fun watch. I fully enjoyed it. So again, I do enjoy SpongeBob. Not something that I will necessarily say I've binge watched all the way through, but yeah, I liked it. It was fun. So you sit there and you spoke then of something representative of your childhood. So I guess in turn, I'm going to do my first pick is something that is extraordinarily representative of my childhood. And it is another Halloween episode of a television show. And we are talking Knight Rider, season 3, episode 5, titled Halloween Night. Yes, of course, that is night with a K. Because pretty much every episode title was a play on the night with a K. It originally aired October 28th, 1984, and if you would like to check it out, it is available on PeacockNBC.com and Apple TV. I love Knight Rider, right? I've always been a sucker for a cool car in a show. I'm not what you call a gearhead or anything like that, but I like cool-looking cars. And when I was a kid, because when this aired, I was 9 years old, and at this time, the thought of a freaking genius talking car that was slick and looked cool was amazing. And to me, the style of Kid is timeless, right? It still looks cool to me now. And this whole thing, a Halloween themed episode was great. It had some some nods to things. It had the one house they go to was the house from Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the party scenes, you can see a guy's wearing a pumpkin mask, and it is literally a Silver Shamrock Halloween 3 pumpkin mask. I mean, you can even see the logo in the back when he turns around the time. And I'm sure that was just literally because it was a cheap, easy prop to get.
Yep.
But it was pretty cool seeing that. And I enjoyed the episode. Again, I'm a sucker for Knight Rider. I have to say, overall, I love me some David Hasselhoff. He does make me laugh in so many ways with his career. But I was still am a huge Knight Rider fan. But so let me return the favor. Ike. What did you think of Knight Rider Halloween Night?
So first and foremost, I have to be completely honest. I've never watched an episode of Knight Rider in my entire life. Okay, I got to start there. So that's part one. Part two, my introduction to these characters are really these like obscure references. Like the first time I ever heard of Kit was the movie Benchwarmers with Rob Schneider,
John Lovitz.
And John Lovitz. Yep. And my first introduction to Dave Hasselhoff was it's either the SpongeBob movie or, weirdly enough, SpongeBob, or Dodgeball, where he was the German coach. So
yes, which is the reason for that is because David Hasselhoff is a freaking god in Germany.
Yes.
And not even so much as an actor, as a musician. If you want to see something that is a slice of 80s, watch some of the news footage of the tearing down of the Berlin Wall. And you have all these things going on, and Reagan and Gorbachev and the walls coming down, and they're on top of the wall performing is David Hasselhoff. It is surreal.
But oh my god, that's the most 80s thing I've ever heard in my life. But
It absolutely is.
but I was like, I went into this with an open mind. I gotta say, I really enjoyed it. The whole concept of Knight Rider, it is both, it is equal parts hilarious but cool. David Hasselhoff is just so funny, and like you said, they have these huge nods to these different things. Like you said, the Silver Shamrock. Literally, Norman Bates is in this. I don't think it's the original
Yeah.
guy. There's no way,
Right.
but
Yeah.
he looks exactly like him. And you got the house, which is the original house from Psycho. I mean, oh my gosh. So you have all these really cool nods. You have a legitimate story with an actual twist. Like, so for reference, the whole story is that you know, what's his name? Michael, right? Is
Yeah.
the David Hasselhoff. But Michael, he has like I don't think they're girlfriend, boyfriend, but they're like friends.
No,
Um,
no. David Hasselhoff, or excuse me, Michael Knight had a new love interest pretty much every episode. So.
right. So she has a new apartment or whatever, and she sees somebody basically get
Oh, no,
murdered,
no,
and they're
no.
trying. Yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
that's Bonnie. That's Bonnie.
Yeah,
That is one of his co-workers at Knight Industries. She's like the tech guru mechanic for Kit. So yeah, you don't
gotcha.
really see a lot of this episode, but she actually works for Knight Industries with Michael. I forgot who you were referencing there, but it's Bonnie.
Right.
Yeah, she's, which by the way,
Because
one of my huge childhood crushes right there.
I was gonna
Kate,
say,
Kate McPherson. Oh yeah,
because I've never really seen Knight Rider, so I was like, she seems like she's been in other episodes. She's had to have been, because she didn't seem like a
yeah,
random placement. Because you can usually tell if it's just some random person, you know what I mean? Um,
yeah, yeah.
so I was like, I'm sure she's been in other episodes. But yeah, so you have Bonnie. She witnesses someone dying, and basically there's like this whole convoluted story of, not convoluted in a bad way, but like basically it makes her look crazy. It makes her look like she's losing her mind. She's seeing dead bodies. She's seeing weird shit. But and it ultimately boils down to that what she's seeing, while it is not real, it is being implanted by somebody who has access to really high levels of technology. So it kind of goes down this weird rabbit hole. And then you get to the end and you're like, I know who did it, I know who killed it, and then they flipped it on you, and you're like, oh shit, it was this guy. So honestly, such a cool concept, cool cameos. I really, really enjoyed this one specifically. I think this was probably my favorite out of the three that you showed me.
Yeah, it is very very fun. Knight Rider's on a sidetrack. Knight Rider is a great show, but
Yeah.
there is if you watch it, a lot of the episodes are, yeah, it's kind of that same theme, right? And a lot of it's like different setting, regurgitated type stuff. I can cherry pick though about 10 to 12 good Knight Rider episodes, and if you watch it, it's great TV. They told some great stories, and this is one of my favorite episodes. Um, so let's move on though. Move on to your second pick, Ike.
Oh yes. Man, wow, this is a good one. I love this one. So we've talked about this before. We talked about movies and TV shows that really kind of developed our horror taste, right? Because obviously SpongeBob, it had a creepy episode, so what? But something that really developed my horror taste was Goosebumps. And in
Mm-hmm.
specific, we have Goosebumps: The Haunted Mask, which is season 1, episode 1 and 2. Originally aired October 27th, 1995, literally the month after I was born. I was born in 1995, so mind you, I didn't see this when I was like a little baby. I saw it on a rerun. But you can actually find this on Dailymotion and YouTube. And a little notion here: this is actually based on the 11th book in the R.L. Stein's Goosebumps series. But man, Goosebumps: The Haunted Mask. This one is probably one of those ones that I've seen, and I probably watch it reoccurring because I love watching Goosebumps. It's so fun, so nostalgic, and it has like that typical cheesy 90s kids TV show feel. So it's very campy. But this one legitimately terrified me. I remember watching this and I was afraid to put on my Halloween mask because I was afraid that it would get stuck on my head. So this left a lasting impression on me. But also, as far as Goosebumps goes, this was a really interesting concept, and I would love somebody to turn around and make an adult version of this because holy cow, that would be a fantastic horror movie. But to turn it on to you, Dave, what did you think of Goosebumps: The Haunted Mask?
I very much enjoyed it though. I've always liked Goosebumps because again, it for being something it's supposed to be for whatever you want to call it, tweens, young adults, whatever you want to call them, teenagers, early young teenagers. some of this crap is really, really creepy and spooky, and it really does play. It plays a lot on fears that lots of people have.
Yep.
And it was very creepy. And this girl that was the main character is outstanding. She was, because she literally was playing like a split personality or two roles almost, because she was this innocent, meekish, very easily startled girl who wanted to get a mask to get some revenge on these guys that were always scaring her. And by the way, those two guys, man, they pushed it a little too far. Some of those, they were assholes. But anyway, and then so she gets this mask, whatever. And then, but when she dons the mask and the mask kind of takes over, and the voice and everything else, she was playing another character very, very well. And it was very creepy. The mask was creepy enough and scary enough that it was age appropriate, right? It was enough that it's not so hokey looking that you're like, oh, come on, that's not scary. It looked pretty creepy, and but not enough that it's going to send a kid screaming. It was very age appropriate. But my big takeaway from watching this, I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the acting, everything about it. It was felt very 90s, but of course it's what you'd expect. But the story is ageless. But the best part of this for me is I had seen some Goosebumps before, but I guess I'd never seen or had any idea that R.L. Stine hosted these episodes. And
Yep.
R.L. Stine is a great writer, but man, he's not exactly made for TV. And it was just kind of funny to hear him talk and doing this horror host, crypt keeper type thing. He wasn't playing a character; he was just being himself. But the way he tried to crack these jokes of, like, oh, my mom and dad's here. What did you guys think of it? You look at them and their hair's all standing up. I guess they liked it. It made me laugh so hard, those parts with him, because I think what they were trying to do was they were aware that this was a little scary, a little spooky, and for younger kids. So they tried to put this goofy humor on the bookend of it to kind of maybe as a palate cleanser, to try to maybe take your mind off of and make it end with a chuckle, not with a tear. But it was funny. I guess I'd never really seen R.L. Stine, because he didn't, like, I saw him and thought, oh, but when he introduced himself, I was like, oh, okay. And it was peculiar seeing him. And then we spoke about it in our episode that just came out, where we talked about horror themes, and you talked about how much you liked the theme of the show, this series, and the Goosebumps theme. And again, the opening was just cracked me up with that Goosebumps G in that style, floating in the shadow form, floating around everywhere. And it was purely a slice of 90s TV there. It's like hey, we got an effect to do this. Let's just do this all through the opening because we can. But it was pretty funny. I enjoyed it. It was a fun watch. Again, when I first saw it, I thought it was two parts. I was like, oh my gosh, is this going to be enough story for two parts? And it was great. I actually sat there and thought, wow, how are they going to get this wrapped up when I was watching it? Because it was a good job. It was a good story. It was fun. So my next pick is an age-old show. It's actually a movie, and this predates me, but it was something I saw very early on, and I rewatch it every year. I am a huge Rankin Bass person. Of course, they are most known for their Christmas specials, right? Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty Snowman, et cetera, et cetera. And there was a time when they were so hot and so popular, and they wanted to dive in and say, well, we need to do something for Halloween, right? And everybody wanted them to do something for Halloween. And what they came up with was Mad Monster Party, which was theatrically released on March 8th, 1967. It's a stop-motion animated comedy. It has voices by Phyllis Diller and Boris Karloff. A lot of people don't know who Phyllis Diller is anymore, but she was a huge comedian back in the day. Of course, Boris Karloff is the old Universal Frankenstein, from the 1930s. Again, it's a Rankin Bass. It's available on YouTube, and you can also purchase and rent it on Vudu and Amazon. They did make a follow-up to this called Mad Monsters for ABC Saturday Superstars in 1972. It was animated, though. It was not stop motion. And then Dell Comics put out a Mad Monster Party comic in September of 1967. This was great because, again, I love Rankin Bass. I'm a huge Christmas person, too. I love Christmas, and I love Christmas stuff, too. But it's so cool to see Rankin Bass as something that I love so much, and something that's such an integral part of pretty much everybody's childhood, because everybody still watches these specials. It was so cool to see them do a Halloween episode, and it had had all your classic monster characters in it, and it's a fun story and everything else. It is a little lengthy, I think. I think they could have probably kept it a little shorter. because there are parts where it kind of maybe drags a little, but it's so cool. And I'm always fascinated by stop motion because again, this done in 1967, man, the patience and time and craftsmanship it would have had to taken to make this was amazing. So, Ike, what'd you think about Mad Monster Party?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I did not know that this was made by the same people that made all those Christmas cartoons. Because I mean that's really cool first and foremost. Second of all, did you know that Boris Karloff was born in 1887?
Yes, absolutely,
He
yeah.
that is insane to me. That someone who I would feel like is a pretty legendary actor and voice actor, ironically, was literally born before the end of like the last century. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Of course, Karloff, obviously probably most known again for being Frankenstein in the 1931 film, but also maybe even equally most known as the voice of the Grinch in the
yep.
original animated special, which I do believe, actually, I know, Boris Karloff won a Grammy Award for his voice work on the Grinch. So,
Wow.
not only was he a prolific actor, very talented and everything else, but yeah, has a Grammy to his name.
There you go. And also, while watching this, first and foremost, I gotta say, I really, 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 I did like this. I will say that I really appreciated just the craftsmanship of this film. I mean, you look at stop motion, and I have a huge appreciation for stop motion. And I remember when I was in high school, we actually did we did a little project for one of our classes, me and my friends, where we actually tried to make a stop motion film, and it was only about 4 minutes long, but it took us weeks. I mean, weeks to do that. So the scale of this film, and how long it was, I could not imagine how long it took them to do this, and just the practical effects that went behind this. So first and foremost, I have just an immense appreciation for the work that went into this film. Beyond that, the movie was absolutely, I mean, it was hilarious. It had a really cool premise. I really liked the idea behind it. Just a really old timey feel of it too. Really, it made it feel like a period piece. But in addition to that, just the voice acting, and there's so many people who are in this who like I felt like I knew, but I didn't. Like Phyllis Diller, I know the name, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But funnily enough, I know Phyllis Diller from her voice acting in A Bug's Life. She played
Mm-hmm.
the Queen Ant in A Bug's Life, and I was like, holy crap! So I mean, oh man, it was just first and foremost, it was kind of nostalgic in a way because you're like, this is like how things used to be done. Like, when was the last time you saw a major motion picture as a stop motion animation? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but no, absolutely, I loved it so much, and I think this will probably have to go into my yearly rotation now for Halloween movies and
Yep.
shows.
Yeah, yeah, it's very fun. Again, it's because I mean a lot of cartoons and stuff had Halloween specials, but it's like you feel like Halloween. It's just there's missing some things compared
Yeah.
to like Christmas, and this very much filled that gap. I love Matt. It's one of my favorite things of all time for Halloween. Again, I'm a huge Rankin Bass fan, so it's very cool that they dove in and did this something for Halloween. So I speaking of classics, move on. What's your next pick? Or actually, this is your last
Yes.
pick, your third
This
pick.
is yep. This is my last pick. So, little bit of backstory here. So, growing up, I watched all kinds of stuff, but one of the things that I watched every year, and for literally every holiday, and something that I still do to this day, I watch these movies for every holiday, is Charlie Brown. Every holiday, I watch a Charlie Brown movie, and for Halloween, I always watch It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. It was originally aired on October 27th, 1966, a significant amount of time before I was born. But this is this is available on Apple TV free this week, and you can also purchase and rent on Vudu and Amazon.com. Also, and I forgot to mention this earlier about Mad Monster Party, and I believe the Great Pumpkin's on there too. But if you go to archive.org, which is a government archive of the internet,
Yes.
you can actually find a lot of these really old movies for free. So keep that in mind if you're interested. But um, honestly, The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, it's a classic. This is also, one of the most common tropes in Charlie Brown is, Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown as a gag. And this was the first time they did it. And it's just, oh wow. So Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown is so just iconic. The lines, things that you can quote. I got a rock. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many times I've quoted that. Even in today's day and age, I still
Yep.
say that. Oh man. But what do you think, Dave? What did you think? I'm sure you've seen this, but what did
Oh
you
yeah, yeah.
think of the Great Pumpkin?
Oh, I'm a huge Peanuts fan. I as a kid, I watched everything. I collected the books with the comic strips. Still love Peanuts. And one of the best things about the Peanuts is, like you mentioned, there's a Peanut special for every holiday. I mean, every holiday. I mean, you can even go down to like Arbor Day and stuff like that. There is a Peanut special for every holiday, and they are all great. And the characters are so cool, and they have unique personalities, and their interactions are great. And I know the Christmas one is great and everybody loves it, but Great Pumpkin will always be my favorite. It
Yep.
is it is such a classic. Um, I love everything everything about it. Right, I love because there's all the different stories, the trick or treating and the disappointment and the party and then Linus and the pumpkin patch and everything, and it's just there's so much going on, and it's so great. Um, and there's so many things in the Peanuts world, like the pulling of the football and excuse me, and Snoopy as the World War II flying ace and stuff that is now is just commonplace, right? And everybody just knows it's part of Peanuts that was fresh and new during this with this. So I probably could not even count how many times I've seen the Great Pumpkin. I mean, it was every year when it was aired, I watched it. Uh, now of course I own it digitally, so I watch it still every year. Um, yeah, it's great. It's absolutely classic. One of my favorite Halloween themed type things. It's not horror or something like that. That's just for the holiday itself to watch every year. I usually save it and watch it actually on Halloween Day. Um, it's just one of those things that's it's comforting that day to watch. So I've not watched it yet this year, so it'll be watched today. Prior after we get done here. But I do love the Great Pumpkin. I'm a huge Peanuts fan, and
The Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. Sorry.
yeah, oh, I love when Lucy just goes off on Linus for missing, as she puts it, tricks or treats. It sounds kind
Yep.
of funny the way she says it, but it's I mean it's not grammatically incorrect, but it's just it sounds kind of humorous. But so I we saved the gym here for last because this last one is it's unique, and this is not necessarily something that I grew up watching or anything else. This is something that I discovered a little later and was just so humorous to me and so goofy and such a slice of the time. And it really plays into a time period where there was lots of what do they call them? I don't know what they call it. The shows with the different skits and different musical numbers and different acts, variety shows.
Yep.
And everybody had variety show specials. Well, there was a comedian at the time named Paul Land, and I don't know what. I mean, he's a comedian. I don't know what all he did, but to me, he was most notable because he was always on Hollywood Squares, and he was just on there all the time. Well, on October 29th, 1976, on ABC, Paul Lynde had a Halloween special, and this is the funniest thing to me in the world. And this is the thing that I cannot wait to hear your reaction to after watching this. Again, it's from 1976. It had all kinds of people that maybe a lot of people may not know anymore, but were actually very big stars at the time. It had Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz. She played, the witch in this episode. And it also had Betty White, Florence Henderson, who played, Mom Brady and the Brady Bunch. Donnie Marie Osmond, Tim Conway was in it. Pinky from Happy Days, I'm not sure her real name, but she played Pinky in Happy Days, was in this. Um, the thing that hooked me, that caused me to come across this, was it had musical performances by Kiss. And there's nothing that's more 1976 than Kiss. And I love Kiss. I'm a big Kiss fan, and that's what eventually, when I discovered this, was going down the rabbit hole of watching Kiss stuff, and this is how I come across this. It's you can rent and purchase this on Amazon, but it's readily. I don't know if it's just not a public domain, if ABC just doesn't claim it anymore. I don't know what the deal is, but it's readily available on YouTube to watch. Not saying I support anything pirated on YouTube, but it is on there, and it's been up for years. So this again, this is not something that I'm saying is my favorite Halloween thing in the world, but it is so humorous to watch, and to me it really borders on that. It's so bad it's good type thing that it's like a car. It's like the Star Wars holiday special. It's like, man, it is really bad. I know it's really bad, but I watch it every year because it's like a something I feel like I need to do. But I can't wait, like, to hear your feedback. And you just watched this, right? You just freshly watched this not long before we started recording. So we're getting pretty much the hot take here. What's your opinions on the Paul Lynde Halloween special?
Oh Lord. Um. So, okay. So I'm 50-50. Okay. There were parts that I absolutely loved, and there were parts that I was like, "What the fuck am I watching?" Like, so let me break it down for you folks, okay? It opens up with Paul Lynde doing sort of like I would consider it like a monologue, like or something like that on Saturday Night Live with a little more skit, involved because he's doing his
Yeah.
thing where he's going through the different holidays, because supposedly he doesn't like Halloween, right? He's going through
Yes.
Christmas, Arbor Day, Easter. So he's going through all these different like stages of grief trying to stay away from Halloween for whatever reason. And I kind of enjoyed that. I was like, this is a funny start. He doesn't like Halloween, it's kind of tropish, but again, this is from the 70s, so this is pretty revolutionary for the time. And he's doing his whole shtick, and then he gets into it, and it sets up a really cool story. They're like, oh yeah, to get away from the trick or treaters, let's go to my sister's house, his maid or whatever. And then, I thought that she looked a little familiar. I was like, she looks a little. I feel like I've seen her before. And then they get to the house, and it turns out she's the witch. And they're like, oh hey, if you try and give witches a better name, we'll give you 3 wishes, blah blah. And this is where it loses me. They pull this really random like rhinestone trucker, like I'm assuming it's supposed to be like a rhinestone cowboy or something like that, like a reference to that. But I was just like, what am I watching? And it's like this skit where he's like a trucker, which first of all, who wishes they were a trucker? As far as I've heard, it's not exactly a great job, but apparently Paul Lynde wanted to be a trucker, so to each their own. But he wanted to be a trucker, and so he does his job. He's driving whatever, and I'm just like, okay, this one kind of lost me. So I was like, hopefully the next one's better. It wasn't. The next one, he wants to be, what was it, an Arabian prince, or he wants to be
Yeah.
something in the desert, which it's a product of its time. Everybody, you can't get mad. This was before, people weren't racist. So, yeah,
Yeah.
so, he shows up in the desert wearing his robes and, offensive garb. Um, and he does a whole shtick with that, and it was whatever. I like I said, I thought it couldn't get worse. It did, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna stick in there. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna see how this ends. And I'm not gonna lie, the ending was fine. The ending was great. They had a little ball. You got to hear Kiss. You got to see all this really cool stuff. They're like dancing, and honestly, the last part was my favorite part of the whole special. I will make reference to that Betty White was the winner of Miss Halloween or whatever that they had in there.
Yeah.
And obviously rest in peace Betty White, who is a literal angel. So, I have to love it for that part alone because I love Betty White. But oh my God, yeah, no, it was a roller coaster. It was like it brings you up and then immediately crash back down, and then you're like a little bit of hope and then immediate crash back down.
Yeah, it's very much a 70s piece.
Yes.
Again, it's to me even though I'm sure they were lip syncing and miming it, to me the Kiss is the best stuff, right? They
Yep.
played Detroit Rock City, they played Beth, they played King of the Nighttime World, all 3 great songs. Um, they were very very hot at this time. I'm sure that's why they wanted them on there. But they with the face paint and everything else, they kind of do play into that Halloween feel a little bit. It's funny seeing them during like the ball and stuff. They're kind of up in the rafter, I think, a little bit during one part, and it's literally like Gene Simmons is like standing there like, what the hell are we on here? It's just he's like just standing there completely. Um, Florence Henderson from the Brady Bunch doing whatever it was she did. shit, what was the song she did? That Old Black Magic, I think is what it's called, or
Yeah.
something weird like this disco type song. It's like, and I know Florence Henderson can sing, but man, you could just tell she was eating that up, getting to sing and dance, and she was gonna just shine right there. Nothing about. I mean, the Osmonds making an appearance on it. That's very 70s. Tim Conway was in it, who's a huge comedian and actor in the 70s. Um, again, it's not. This is nothing that I say is one of my favorite Halloween things. I watch it pretty much every year. Primarily for the Kiss stuff more than anything, and just because I like watching goofy TV specials. But it's
Right.
not one of those things that I'll ever, go down swinging saying it's great. I literally picked it just because I thought it would be humorous to see for you to watch it and to get your feel on it. Um, and the weird thing is, it's overall, it doesn't even really have that much of a Halloween feel.
Right.
A lot of it's not. I mean, just because it's got some witches. I mean, it does in some ways, but it's not like it's got a lot of Halloween theme to it. But it's interesting. It's intriguing. Something unique. It was something different. So let's do something here. Let's just, this is spur of the moment. We didn't discuss this, but I feel like what we should do. We each pick three. Let's rank each other's three. So let's go from least favorite to top favorite, and let's go back and forth here. Ike, of my three, which would you say is your least favorite?
Oh, Paul Lynde Halloween special, easy.
I figured. I figured. Let's see if I had to. Man, the thing is, I enjoyed all three of yours, so none of these are a knock on any of them. But if I had to pick, probably what I would quote unquote call my least favorite of the three, I would probably, I don't know, I would probably put SpongeBob third.
Yeah, I
And
figured.
it's no knock on it. I still enjoyed it, but it was probably of the three. So Ike, what would you put it to?
This one's hard because the other two that you gave me were honestly fantastic, but I think I'd have to put Knight Rider as number two.
Okay, and if see, mine then would be the Goosebumps would be number two. So that leaves for you or my choices. Your number one being what now?
Mad Monster Party.
Absolutely.
I have to say one more time, I'm just absolutely blown away by the craftsmanship of this movie. That alone makes it probably one of the best cartoons I've ever seen in my entire life,
Yeah.
easily.
And of course, my number one would be of yours would be It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, which is fitting because both those are very close. Mad Monster Party is weird because it's so underappreciated. A lot of people don't even know it
It is.
exists. I mean, they don't even know it's out
Today.
there. Yeah, and most people don't know that it was Rankin Bass, the same people that did Rudolph and etc. I mean, they have no idea that they did a Halloween. It was a movie, but that they did anything for Halloween. So
Yeah.
it's a very pleasant surprise when people see it and that enjoy that. So, although there you have it, there's 6 Halloween specials. Again, with Halloween, if you're listening to this on the holiday, go out and watch some of these if you haven't already, and enjoy your day. Trick or treat, do whatever it is you do. Remember the rules. We discussed them in our last episode. Remember your rules of Halloween. Don't break any rules. Make sure you pass out candy. Don't blow out the jack-o'-lantern, et cetera, et cetera. You don't want Sam to come and spoil your Halloween. So that's it. That's all we're going to do. We're going to get out of here. Again, this was just a little short bonus episode. We hope you enjoyed it. And once again, happy Halloween, everybody. Ike, before we get out of here, any last spooky words of wisdom that you want to lay on the listeners?
Nothing major except for I'm pretty sure there's somebody behind you, listener. I think you should probably go check that out.
Yes, probably. There probably is. And if you don't see them, they're lurking. So you might want to check all the closets and grab the salt. So, so anyway, happy Halloween once again from us here on Listen to Their Screams. And wherever you go and whatever you do, be good, be safe, and have many pleasant nightmares.